Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go! Hey folks, how's it going? Another installment of Ballsy Uncut. And we're going to get right down to business here. Going to get a little nerdy on you. Some stats from our CFL simulation expert, the Dean, the Edwards School of Business. That would be in Saskatoon. That would be Keith Willoughby, the Dean on the show. He does CFL simulations. So we'll talk about that. We'll also get into, you see that jersey over my shoulder? It's a Chinese knockoff, no doubt about it. But it's the Philip Rivers jersey. He's my favorite football player of all time behind Jerry Rice. I'm a CFL 3-down guy, but my two favorite football players of all time, not going to lie to you, Jerry Rice and then Philip Rivers. Shame he never won a Super Bowl. Had some great years with the San Diego Chargers. Finished his career with the Colts. We'll talk about his career in a bit, too. He's got some interesting stats, which I think would back up him being a Hall of Famer. We got Airing It Out with Isaac Harker coming up, former Rider and Lion quarterback. We'll talk about the art of quarterbacking, what we saw this past week, and headed into the week that's coming up here. Riders and the Edmonton Elkamos coming to town, trying to get back in the win column, coming off their bye week. Riders dismantled the BC Lions 33-27 in a game that wasn't really that close. Trevor Harris had an unbelievable contest for the Rough Riders, proving the doubters wrong. He'd consider me a doubter too. I'm not. I've always been a supporter of his, but as I've said a couple of times, he didn't like the fact that I said the Riders should go after a younger guy in the offseason, a Trey Ford or a Jake Mayer, so they can look at getting the next guy in here. And he's ramming it up everybody's keister right now, the way he's been playing. And kudos to him, man. Right now, holding up real well. Okay. I was in the rock and roll world for 25 years on a radio station in Regina. They don't pay my bills, so they don't get a plug. But anybody that followed me knows that I was in morning radio for 25 years, so I met a lot of rock stars. Ozzy Osbourne passing away at the age of 76. My favorite song is Shot in the Dark from Ozzy Osbourne. And as I tape this at 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to join a thread with my buddy Kelly Rempel, who's a big Ozzy fan. And we're all going to do a shot of something at 10 o'clock at night. So I'll stay up till 10, do a shot in the dark. That was my favorite Ozzy song. So, yeah. And, man, that guy, what a legend. Has the concert. So doesn't take any pain medication, so he isn't numb when he plays his last show in Birmingham, England, with his bandmates Black Sabbath and all his buddies like Axl Rose and Sammy Hagar and Metallica. The list goes on and on. Came to perform there in that day-long festival there in Birmingham, England. And then he passes away, what is it today, 22nd? 2 weeks, 17 days after that, he passes away. That is epic. That is legendary. Ozzy goes out in a one-of-a-kind style. I thought, honestly, my dad, who's been through so many things, Ozzy Osbourne and Keith Richards would be the last three men on earth when it was all said and done. So rest in peace to the metal god, Ozzy Osbourne. All right. We will come back. And on the other side of the sponsor break, Airing It Out with Isaac Harker, brought to you by our friends at Advantage Collision in Saskatoon and PA, my friend Ben Garrow. They do great work there. Family-owned business. Their safety and your safety and care is important to them, and getting the work done in the quickest time possible. OEM certified. It's Advantage Collision in Saskatoon and PA. Thanks to them for getting on board. I do appreciate their support. It's Airing It Out next with Isaac Harker. We're also going to hear from Venston Donelson, former Rider defensive back coach of the U of R Rams, with his True Potential business. All right, Isaac Harker joining us here for another edition of Airing It Out. Okay, so sorry, help me out. What are you doing now these days? You're not playing football, but are you, like when guys leave football, some try to stay close to the sports business. Are you that kind of guy?
Yeah, I'm still roughly, sports adjacent. I'm over at Lindenwood University doing some sponsorship stuff for the athletic program.
Okay, so do you have a different perspective on that side of things from when you played?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the things you don't necessarily notice how much work goes into, what all goes into putting the banners up in the end zone or getting stuff up on the video board. You're like, it's just kind of part of the environment, but you realize there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross.
Is there something you've learned about yourself after football, doing a job like this?
Yeah, I'm not very patient. So sometimes, in the past, it's always been me and things that I need to get done, I can get done, where a lot of times now you have to, wait on some stuff and got to have a little more patience.
Yeah. So, but that's interesting to me, man, because as a quarterback, didn't you have patience? Was that something you always had to work on?
Yeah, I mean, patience, in a game setting or on the field is different than, I guess, in the weight room or, otherwise, off-season stuff. It's like, oh, I need to do this now, I can do it now, and I don't have to rely on, stuff to come through from anybody else. But in the game, it's just a little bit of a different environment.
So what kind of drills do you quarterbacks do, or you did when you played, or maybe when you coach? Because I know you help out from time to time. So what kind of drills do you do to learn, how to climb the pocket, keep your eyes downfield, and know where the line of scrimmage is? That's always amazed me. Last night in a game, Hamilton, Ottawa, Bo Levi Mitchell scrambles. And I know he's a veteran of 13 years, so he's been around. But I'm like, oh, because as a fan, you could see the blue mark on the TV, right? There's a line of scrimmage. Oh, and he knows, because that blue mark's not on the field, he knows to get rid of the football. Do you have that? Can you learn that? What kind of drills can you do with regards to that?
I think in terms of knowing where the line of scrimmage is, especially for a guy like him, it's just zeroed in. He's got that natural feel for it. He knows exactly how far, because as long as any part of you is touching that line, you're still good to make the throw. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a little bit second nature in terms of where the line of scrimmage is at. For pocket movement, a lot of guys have natural playmaking and feel, but there's a lot of drills that I like to teach kids and that I would do when I was playing. Was you set up cones, you have targets downfield, you got to keep your hips aligned while moving to different cones that are numbered 1 through 4. So a lot of times if your hips are facing one way and the cone's the other way, you'll have to back foot lead just so you can still make a throw as you're making that movement, because a lot of times that window to actually throw the ball is very small and you might have to be moving opposite to your throw before that. So that's a really good drill that I like.
So this will sound like a dumb question because you're a quarterback throwing, right? But how much percentage-wise is it throwing versus footwork? Do you know what I mean? Is it 70-30? Is it 60-40? What is it? Because I don't think a lot of people appreciate the footwork of a quarterback and how that can screw things up.
Yeah, I think I'm of the opinion that the feet are more important than the arm, because a lot of times you can make yourself more consistent with your feet. A lot of guys have enough natural talent where, if something breaks down and you have to make a throw, against your body or move in a different way without your feet down, you can do it. But it's better if you have the time and the space to make that movement with your hips and feet down in a line, just so you can make that strong, accurate throw. So I think feet are the most important thing for a quarterback. Okay,
so let's talk about footwork. Nathan Rourke, who I love watching, he's a fun guy to watch, and some people say he's not as good as he's talked about. I think he's a great quarterback. Is he back to the 2022 level when he left? I don't know that yet. He seems to be working that way. But he did sail a few throws in this game against the Riders. I know you don't watch every game, you just watch highlights. I just want from a generic standpoint, not necessarily about Nathan Rourke, but if a quarterback is sailing passes, okay, and he's not scrambling, he's in the pocket, he's stepping up and he's sailing passes, what's the indicator there? What's maybe happening? Is it his foot? Is he not finishing? Is he not finishing? I know sometimes quarterbacks get taught, you start up here and you finish across your body like you're putting something in the opposite pocket. So it's like you're finishing all the way through. Just from a quarterback standpoint, what might be some indicators in general that you're sailing a pass?
Yeah, sometimes it has to do with the vicinity of the pocket, like there's someone really close in front of you, so you can't always pull down as hard as you want to, so it ends up sailing a little bit. And a lot of guys are notorious early in games for sailing balls because they're just so amped up and like ready to go, and they need to get hit before they settle in and start really bringing it down. But a lot of times it's starting the motion of the hips before that front foot gets down, so you're just like, you get so excited that the throw's there, so you kind of start everything early before that foot's down and you're ready to kind of rotate around that plane.
Yeah. Hey, how tall are you?
6 foot, 6'1" on a good day.
Yeah, so you'd be a Nathan Rourke type. Like, Nathan's not a big guy. Like, big guy, he's bigger than me. You're bigger than me, but not per se. So we're not talking like 6'5", like Justin Herbert or those kind of guys. Okay. So sometimes is that something too where you're like, you can't really see the target? Like, talk about that. Sometimes throwing and not being able to see, because with shorter quarterbacks, you need a passing lane too.
Yeah. So sometimes. I won't say blind because you'll get like memed on by the fans, oh, you're throwing it without seeing it. But a lot of times you can't physically see the receiver. You know where he's at and you know where the defender's at, so you can make a throw into that window. And it's that trust with the receiver that he's going to be in the right place. Yeah. And I know when I'm dropping back, I get my neck craned and I get up on my tiptoes trying to see. And that's just something that you have to adjust to, being, vertically challenged a little bit. But a lot of times you're moving through. You're seeing glimpses and flashes through because those guys up front are huge. They're 6'4", 300 pounds. So you're trying to see through them and find your key defender, really.
Yeah. Talk about the scramble drill. Nathan Rourke had a couple in this game where he scrambles around and throws a touchdown pass to the back of the end zone or a 2-point conversion. I was in Winnipeg watching the Stamps and Bombers, and Vernon Adams is going to get sacked. He spins out and throws it down. Now, it helps to have a 6'6" receiver that gets in behind coverage. But talk about the art of the scramble drill from the quarterback point of view and from the receiver's point of view.
Teams practice this every week, and there's a loose formula, but I'd say it's more of an art than a science, because if you're a deep receiver, you're moving to come back short. If you're more shallow, you're moving to come deep, and then one person is to basically post it across the field far away from the scramble. If there's a lot of really talented guys in the CFL who can actually make that throw, but a lot of times it comes down to just knowing where your receiver is going to be. He looks like he's breaking deep, and then boom, he cuts back to the sideline, and you put it there early, because the hardest part of the scramble drill is things are moving so fast in your direction that sometimes something can look open, and if you try and throw it back, across the middle, it's going to get closed on and usually picked off. But a lot of guys in the CFL are really excellent at that. Fajardo was really good at the scramble drill. Vernon Adams, Nate Rourke, a lot of these guys are. Yeah.
So Chris Strevler goes in for the Blue Bombers, and he's not the same passer as Zach Collaros. I mean, that's an unfair comparison. But he's a bigger, meatier quarterback. Doesn't have that elasticity. Okay, like, he's an athlete. He rumbles. You probably don't want to tackle that dude. So he rolls out to his left. He's a right-handed quarterback, and that's a tough throw for anybody to make. How fast do you got to make? Because he seemed to run a few steps farther than maybe he should and got rid of it late and got picked off. If you're throwing across your body in a scramble drill, how fast do you got to get rid of that football?
Yeah, and a lot of times it comes down to having your hips and shoulders aligned as you're moving that way, which makes you slower. But, I mean, for him, his slower is still faster than my dead sprint,
Yeah.
But, so a lot of times it just comes down to trying to maintain those fundamentals while a great big huge guy is chasing you down. So it's definitely harder than it looks.
Well, really that's you just hit the nail right on the head. We got 280, 300-pound guys chasing you full speed. That's hard to replicate in practice, isn't it? To keep the mechanics down. Like, how do you do that? Can you even do that in practice?
And a lot of times it comes down to your quarterback coach or OC holding you accountable to, practicing at absolutely max effort, because it's 90% is different than like you're maxing out everything to try and save your own skin. So it's really a lot of times practice habits. You got to just really go balls to the wall in practice.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about there was a pass. Trevor Harris is standing in there, 39-year-old guy. He's in great shape, but he's 39, and he's standing in there, and he's got Robustelli going down the right sidelines, and he is going to take a whack. And he did take a whack, couldn't complete the throwing motion. He did complete the pass, but talk about being in that in those cleats, and you know you're going to get whacked. Just talk about that.
Yeah, and the CFL is different too because in that zero coverage, those blitzers who are unblocked are hitting the line of scrimmage at a dead sprint. So when it's stinging and you have to make a big throw, you know you're going to take a shot with your ribs exposed. And Caleros actually had a lot of really good coaching points on throwing while getting hit. He told me he wanted to get that shoulder, like as long as he finishes the throwing motion with the arm, that throw's going to get made, even though you're going to take a shot and it protects your ribs a little bit. But it's a lot of times it's mind over matter, because if you tense up at all, it's going to affect your throw. So you really have to just, as hard as it sounds, just pretend that they're not there and make that throw and try and get through it.
Yeah, but you're a man. You're a human. So here's. I've talked about this before. I don't know with you, but I have talked about this before. So I'm on the sidelines in 2017 doing reporting, like sideline reporting, and Ricky Ray's playing for the Argos, and he gets whacked by Charleston Hughes, like just destroyed. Okay, I can hear it. I still hear it today. He gets up. You could say he's huffing and puffing, 20-second play clock. He goes to the huddle. He's got to tell the play. He's hunched over, and he's got to call the play, execute the play. It was the start of the drive. They went 100 yards and scored a touchdown after getting whacked. Like, talk about that, because you're the quarterback. The play starts with the ball in your hands. It's not like a receiver. If you get smoked, they can stay away from you for a couple of plays so you get your breath back. Talk about that from being the quarterback, and you just got to keep going. Yeah,
sometimes you get the wind knocked out of you when your ribs are exposed and you take a shot like that. So then when your linemen are going to pick you up, sometimes you got to be like, hey, you got to give me a minute, like, before you help me up. Like, I need to catch my breath a little bit.
Yeah.
And then when you get back to the huddle, hopefully a lot of OCs are good about this. I know Moss was whenever Cody would take a big hit. A lot of times it's a play you're super comfortable with after, just so you can get through calling it and then kind of run the play on autopilot until you can kind of get that breath back in you.
Yeah. So a couple more questions for you here and airing it out with Isaac Harker. Thanks for taking time, buddy. I appreciate it. Give me an example of a timing route and what that looks like. How fast you got to get the ball out. Can you give me one in the CFL?
Definitely. There's a route called an Omaha, and it's just a quick out route. It's basically second inside step or 5 yards. It depends on who's coaching up the route. But that ball, as soon as you get it in your hands, you won't have time to spin it and get the laces and all that. A lot of times, like centers like Dan Clark will get you the laces during the snap, but that's as soon as you're getting it. You're putting it on the sidelines before he turns his head. So it takes a lot of trust with the receiver, but a lot of, it's a deft touch putting it out there before they turn, because it'll be on them right when they get their head around.
So did you ever hit a guy in the head when he wasn't ready?
Not at the CFL level, but in college plenty of times. And those timing routes, like the short outs, are a lot different than people always talk about anticipating throws, which, like, there's a route called an all-state route in the CFL where you're throwing it before he breaks around a linebacker, kind of on a bender route.
Yeah.
And that's different because you guys are both kind of looking at each other, so it's out early, but he can make adjustments to where he's seeing the ball flight. But when he can't adjust to the flight of the ball, it's got to be a pretty darn good pass.
Hey, is there much time to audible at the line of I don't think there's a lot of time to audible at the line of scrimmage in the CFL. At least I would say it. Now, listen, here's a misnomer. It's not exactly a 20-second play clock. By the time they set the ball and get everything set, it's over 20 seconds. It's probably closer to 27, 28 seconds. So it's not exactly, it's 40 versus about 28, but it's still less time. So is there enough time to audible very much? Like, maybe you didn't do it as much because you were a younger guy, but just being on the sidelines, do guys have a lot of time to audible?
There's definitely a shorter amount of time than you'd think, just because you're making sure everybody's set. You're trying to figure out what the defense is doing, and by the time that you see something that you could get a really good audible in, there'll be 6 seconds left. So it's kind of, how expensive is it going to be to get this play changed and race against the clock versus just running what you already have in place? So if the play's really you're at a disadvantage, you might as well just get it changed. But if you're like, well, I have some outs here, you might as well just run it. And guys with masteries of it, the Caleros of the world, they can get an audible in just because they know the offense like the back of their hand.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You get to the line of scrimmage. There's There's no way out. Like, you don't have it. You know this play is effed up. Like, you're done. Like, shit, I'm in trouble here. Do you take a time count? What do you do? Like, what do you do? Do you just, okay, there's going to be nothing here, so I'm just going to waste this ball and live to fight another day? Like, what? Because it's chaotic there. You don't have a lot of time, and you're the guy.
Yeah, I'd say 95% of the time you're going to have some form of out, like, okay, it's not the best look, but we do have a couple options here. So majority of the time you're going to be able to find something, but there are those scenarios where it's like, this is completely what we do not want for this play. So either you're just going to have to make the best of it and try not to make a negative play, or depending on what your coaches want, you can take a time count or a timeout. But those timeouts are crucial, so you want to save those. So a lot of times you're just going to have to make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, how do you like that? We have a faster game in Canada, but less timeouts. How do you enjoy that?
It's nice because I always enjoyed games in the way that you're kind of out there on your own versus in practice. There's a lot of like logistics and, oh, let's run it again because we got to get this certain look. Where in the games, it's kind of freeing to be out there like, oh, I'm prepared for this. I can make those changes. So I always liked the feeling of when I got to start those few times, just being out there and like, okay, it's more free flowing than like down south.
You know, Trevor Harris is 39. I mentioned that. Zach Collaros is 37. Zach's a little more mobile than Trevor is. Well, Trevor's not very mobile at all. But we saw when he gets a clean pocket, like against the BC Lions, 76% of his passes completed. Absolutely surgical if nobody can touch him. That's almost indefensible, isn't it? Like 70, and think about that. You could speak to it. 76% of his passes complete. 9th straight game, which is a CFL record of 70% completion percentage.
Yeah, he's definitely on another level when it comes to being organized pre-snap, having the answers to the test beforehand, making very quick decisions, getting the ball out with anticipation. So when he has a clean pocket and can he doesn't even need a ton of time because he's so surgical, like you mentioned, getting the ball out quick, that, he's really tough.
So can you become accurate, or are you accurate? Dan Marino, I heard an interview once say, you're either accurate or you aren't accurate. Yeah, you can practice, but you either have the tendency to be accurate or you don't. Do you believe what Dan's saying, or do you think you can be accurate?
It's hard to go against Dan Marino, one of the best passes of all time, but I think he's speaking in generalities, but I think there is some wiggle room. You definitely have a potential that you can hit by working hard and, staying diligent in practice and working extra and all that. But I do think in generalities, you have a natural talent for accuracy or you don't.
Hey, do you laugh sometimes you're watching the NFL now and everybody's talking about the spread and they're talking about the RPO and they're talking about, and you're like, do you ever say to yourself, I was up in the CFL, they've been doing this, like this is like they're doing what the CFL's been doing.
Yeah. So it seems like the NFL's a couple years behind in terms of like the level of offense, like the air raid and the RPOs and things that are like just like staples in the CFL are like becoming new in the NFL, so it's kind of funny to see that.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Isaac, best of luck getting the sponsorship. I'm in sales too, so it's not an easy gig. And thanks for doing this, and we'll have you on again. I appreciate you taking time for this airing it out segment.
Oh yeah, absolutely, anytime.
All right, Venston Donelson joining us here. How many of those hats you got, bro?
Oh, I need more, man. I don't have enough summer hats like this. Probably about 12.
Yeah?
So anybody out there, you got some hats like this, let me know. I'll come get them.
Have you always been into the dress game, dressing up and everything like that?
Well, yeah, coming from Detroit, Detroit's a bit stylish, so you have to have your game tight if you wanted to date the ladies.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, V, who's your favorite athlete growing up, or athletes?
Oh, favorite athlete growing up, one would be Bo Jackson.
Okay.
Because we have similar names. Next would be from baseball would be Ken Griffey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball. Growing up, it would have been Dr. J.
Okay. I agree with all of those. Not so much Dr. J, not that I didn't think he was great. I loved Ken Griffey Jr. and Tony Gwynn and Bo Jackson. That's probably, honestly, I'm trying to, like, it's hard to pick, just say one, but I can't think of a more devastating injury to an athlete than that in terms of how great his career could have continued to be.
Exactly. He definitely would have went down as actually still going down as one of the greatest athletes ever. Didn't even, fulfill his full career.
You talk about true potential. That's your saying. That's your business. What do you think is the number one attribute an athlete needs to reach his or her full potential?
For me, I would say the number one thing would be mindset, and then having the mindset, then aligning with your goals and dreams, right? Because I went through the reason why I named my company True Potential is because I didn't reach my true potential as a player.
You say you didn't or you did?
I didn't reach my true potential as a player.
Okay, so why didn't you, Venston?
The reason why I didn't was because of the fact that yes, I had goals and dreams and whatnot, but at the same time, you got to have alignment with those things in regard to, you have these goals and dreams, but what actions are you taking to stay in line with those goals and dreams?
Okay, so true potential, what's the foundation of that? Like, what kind of things do you teach the athletes that work with you in order to get to their goals? Because you can have goals, but if, like you said, if you don't focus, then those are just dreams. They're not really goals, right?
Exactly. It's more of being having that commitment. You start with commitments, which creates the consistency, and consistency creates the focus. So it's a natural chain reaction that happens when you start to take yourself down that path.
Yeah. So my son has worked out with you, and you were a big part of getting him to where he is today, which is in Winnipeg Blue Bombers camp. But I told him this just from my experience being on the outside, watching guys like you and then after you. I said, there's a lot of free, when you go from college, whether it's Canadian or in particular NCAA to the CFL, there's a lot more free time with athletes. So I think a lot of these guys could probably be better than they are, but they don't, time management becomes a bit of an issue for them.
Exactly. Time management can be a huge issue, because I was always one that thrived in situations where I was kind of told, what to do, where to be, kind of thing. But when it became, when I got to be able to make my own decisions, it became a bit of a challenge in regard to, because you just start to have things surface in regard to childhood trauma and all these different things that you never even thought about, as a kid growing up, and all of a sudden they hit you. It's like, oh, okay, what do I do now?
So where did this pass it forward? Besides it being a business, you do it as a business, but you do it because you like athletes. Where did this kind of pass it forward mentality come from and then lead you into coaching?
Where it came from actually was from high school. I had a high school coach by the name of Joe Hoskins, and also had a buddy by the name of Mark Lindsay that Carl Fogle, that actually talked me into playing football. I never played football until I was in 10th grade, and my coach gave me this speech about being relentless. He goes, "God damn it, be relentless. Refuse to be denied. Force your will. Don't you back down and don't you quit." The upcoming game, I had to start, and I was playing at the start actually against a All-American, Dino Dawson. And again, I never played organized football before, but he seen something in me, and I stuck with the relentless mentality, and hey, the rest was history. I had a wonderful game. I think Dino might have caught one ball for 4 yards, and that was my beginning to greatness, I guess you could say.
I've followed the Riders in the CFL for a long time, so I watched your career. I rather enjoyed your athleticism matched with physicality. How has your mentality had to change as you coach these football camps, which you're on right now, and being a Rams head coach now, or a defensive coach? I look at it like football has changed so much. For instance, the BC defensive back, Deontay Williams, he used to play with Saskatchewan. He smokes that Arkell Smith, the receiver for the Edmonton Elks, and he gets a penalty for a huge hit like that. That would be a regular Sunday for Venston Donelson back in the day. So how has your mentality had to change coaching-wise that way?
I guess my mentality is I I'm still like if he catch the ball, we lay his ass out.
Yeah,
that
that's right.
that part hasn't changed. You catch the ball, you pay a price, but we want to do it within the rules of the game. And yeah, it's one of them things that it kind of watered down the game a little bit, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you got a helmet on, you got pads on, you just got to know how to use them in the proper way.
Yeah, I'd like to pick your brain on this because I had a kid on the receiver side and now he's on the defensive back side, so I get to see both sides, okay? I'll watch Del Duncan Busby chop block an Argos guy outside the box by a yard, he gets fined. If he does it just a yard inside the box, it's a legal play, okay? Whatever. I'm not calling him dirty. I'm just saying, okay, so they can do that, but you can't hit a receiver high, you can't hit a receiver low, they can stiff arm you in the face, but you can't blow them you can't hit them in the head. Like, it is almost impossible to be a defensive player. Now, could you, not talent-wise, Vincent, but could you play in today's game just the way you played before? Do you know what I'm saying there?
Yep. I can. I definitely could play in today's game because the game itself, you always have to adapt. It's all about adapting, and I'm one to definitely be able to adapt in those situations. Because you can't lead with your head. You can't, hit a person in the head, right? But it's always the ribs and there's other body parts that trust me, you put it on them, he's going to feel it. And I played the game in the aspect where if you caught the ball, you paid for it, right? And I played with a little bit of intimidation against receivers.
Yeah. So I'm not condoning what Amos did with Hamilton blitzing off the corner, hitting Drew Brown. I don't know if you saw that clip, but you probably did if you've been on social media. Sometimes I think we're a little unrealistic with what we expect from these guys. They're going full speed, coming in, and it looks a lot worse when you're watching it on TV or can slow it down in instant replay. And then Drew Brown doesn't even do up his helmet. It goes flying 45 yards.
Yeah. I actually did miss the play, but in those situations, as long as you're not hitting him in the head, his helmet fly off because of contact. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh well, as long as it's a legal hit, I definitely endorse it.
Well, he did hit him in the head, but the thing is, Brown doesn't see him till the last second and kind of dips a little bit. So then when I start to make my hit, if the quarterback dips his head, now it's a helmet to helmet. But what's the guy going to do? He's a 200-pound man coming full speed, right?
You know what? And that's my problem with the head shots. Where if I got you lined up where I'm gonna hit you in your chest, and all of a sudden you dip down and I hit you in your head, that shouldn't be a penalty. But at the same time, those are things that will slow the game down because it got to be reviewed and whatnot. But I definitely don't think that's fair for the offense to get that opportunity.
Okay, let's talk about some of the guys you've helped coach. I already mentioned my son, Jackson Sombach. There's been a few. How proud are you to see these guys go to the next level,
Hey, I love it, man. It's a testament to who they are as athletes and as people to be able to weather the storm, stay focused, and live their dream. Jackson, he was one of my first client. Actually, my first client actually recruited him, to my company. Went and sat down with him and his mom and his dad, and let him know, like, dude, I see something in you. If you got the dream, you willing to do the work, I can definitely help you achieve your dream, man.
Yeah, and talk about it from like he's athletic. Don't get me wrong, but he's not. You can't teach size, so he's not a big guy. So how does a guy like that overcome that? Like how do you help him overcome something that he can't overcome, a lack of height?
It's belief within yourself, and let your play speak for you. And Jackson, Soundback, and Carson, all the Soundbacks, they're football players, right? They play the game the way it's meant to be played, and when you play the game the way it's meant to be played, that's something a person can't hide. That's something that's very noticeable, and that's something coaches love.
Hey, you're an American but coaching Canadian football. Just talk about the quality of youth sports and how much it's gotten better since you've been in the game with the Rams, because I don't think we promote these kids enough how talented they are. Like, yes, Canadians need a little bit of time to develop, maybe more so than Americans, but that gap is getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah, that gap is closing very quick. I mean, we have tons of Canadians that from BC and Ontario that get opportunities to go down and actually get NIL deals and play in the States. And because of programs like mine and some what the other former players are doing, where players are getting that firsthand information, early on and able to apply that, that's a game changer because I didn't have that.
No, for sure, yeah.
I was talking to my group yesterday. If I had what they had, oh my God, ain't no telling where I would have ended up.
Yeah. So talk about the camps you're doing right now, and how often do you put on these youth football camps with your business, True Potential?
I actually I run a winter camp for strength, speed, and position specific. That runs about 4 months. Then in the summer, we run the summer camp, which runs about 2.5 months, whereas receivers, defensive backs, and also we have some quarterbacks join this year, where it's speed, position specific, and one-on-ones is one of them things where iron sharpens iron, and we want to put guys in the best possible position to actually get better and compete, and we do that Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursday at U of R from 7 to 8 p.m.
So where do they get more information? It's late for this go around, but if they want to join in the winter, how do they go about doing that?
They can give me a call. Feel free to give me a call, 306-529-5908, or go to my website, Venston Donelson, VENTSONDONELSON.com.
All right. And Kay, 2 more quick questions for you. How do you think the Riders are, your thoughts on the Riders off to a 5-1 start? Trevor Harris, man, 76% of his passes completed in the last game. If you give that guy a clean pocket, he's almost unstoppable.
Exactly. Man, look at here. I'm so happy about my green and white. I bleed green, right?
Yeah.
And with Trevor, it was so good to see him pushing the ball down the field. I think that was something that was missing a little bit. And as soon as they started pushing the ball down the field, everything opened up. I'm happy with where the offense is at and the direction that they headed.
I was actually, that was the one part of his game that I was a little bit hesitant on. Listen, he's a professional football player, but what I was getting at is this guy here, he's accurate from the line of scrimmage to about 15, but I want to see him throw it deep more consistently, and I'm like, if he can't do that, I can't see the Riders winning, but man, he opened it up the last game.
Hey, look the hell out. That's the only thing that was missing. The run game didn't go as well as we planned, but obviously they stacked up against the run, and we made them pay by going over the top. And yeah, he's doing a tremendous job. I think if we keep that mix going, it's going to be hard for teams to actually get a tail on us, and it should make things a lot more easier for us.
2 more Rider-related questions. How much do you like watching a guy like Roland Milligan play and fly around out there? He should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year, in my opinion.
Without a doubt, he's a guy that plays the game where it's meant to be played. I'm just at awe at how he's able to get himself in position to make plays, not sometime, but consistently all the time. He's the guy.
Yeah, actually, sorry, I meant to say he should have been the MOP, but they don't give defensive guys very much of a chance to be MOP. And then let's talk about a linebacker guy in A.J. Allen. Here's a guy, a Canadian. He gets to run on special teams for a few years coming out of Guelph, and now he gets a crack at the wheel linebacker spot. Interception the week before, and then last week he had 2 knockdowns, almost a pick, and 5 tackles. So just talked about, like I said, Canadians take a bit to develop, but it's great to see a guy like that excel. Exactly,
man. He's taking advantage. He's taking advantage of his opportunity. He's doing a great job. He's in there making plays, getting his hands on balls. That's all you want is the opportunity to make plays, and he's definitely taking advantage of that opportunity. He's doing very well.
And lastly, how excited! I'm a former Ram, so I'm rooting for them to get to the Vanier Cup. You had a nice run last year. How are you feeling about this season with you guys hosting the Vanier Cup this year? Got to be exciting times around Ramland there.
Hey, we reloading a little bit, but we are very excited. We're young. We was quite young last year, so a lot of those guys got some good experience, and I'm looking to pick up from where we left off.
Yeah. More specifically, how's your secondary going to look this year?
That's a good question. That's a good question. We got a couple of holes to fill, but we got some young guys that I think that will step up, and some guys that's been there for a while that will step up and do what's necessary to put us in the position that we need.
Okay, big boy, then how much does coaching weigh into that? Like, I see you smile like a butcher's dog. That's a good question. But to me, as a guy that's been a competitor all his life, that's probably something where you're like, okay, now this is where I can maybe help take it to the next level.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Like last year, the players were saying they thought that was my best coaching performance. But this year would be my best coaching performance because we definitely going to put the work in and do what needs to be done to get us to where we need to be.
Okay, so but in your thought process, why do you think they would say that? Like, what do you think you did well last year for as a coach?
I think just temperament, having better self-awareness with dealing with players, and because a lot of times as coaches, you have to be able to adapt with players and get the best out of your players, and some coaches don't adapt. It's just the way I am, and a lot of times being just the way you are is not going to get you the outcomes that you're looking for. So I took it personal, and it actually is something that I teach behavior analysis. So I really dug in and making sure that the players were getting where they need, not just on the field but off the field, and just standing constant communication. Me and my buddy Robbie Abrams helping me out, doing the best we can to get the players what they need.
So are you an advocate of a player fitting a system or a system fitting a player? Like, how does that look in terms of, coaching the DBs at least?
If you have a system, the player going to need to be able to fit in it.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're building your system around the player, he better be that guy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder on defense because it's just so many moving parts, but by all means, is it possible? Without a doubt. If you got a killer defensive lineman, hell yeah, you build your system around him.
So last question for you. What's the hardest position to play on defense? Like, I say it's either boundary field, they kind of need the hash marks, but I'd say boundary half or Sam linebacker. Which one is the hardest one to play, do you think, on defense?
The hardest position, I would say any defensive back position, and also the Sam linebacker position, due to the fact that that guy knows where the hell he's going. Mm-hmm. You have no clue.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
To try to mimic and stay with some of these guys, and it's challenging. You got some great route runners. You got some guys got some great skills. It's not the easiest thing to do. Defensive back and offensive line are definitely the hardest position to play because they are reactive.
It's a great guy to talk to, former Rider great and now current coach with the Rams. This would be our friend with true potential, Venston Donelson. Thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, so these are the stats, the simulations coming from our friend Keith Willoughby, the dean at the Edwards School of Business, and our dean on the show here, Edwards School of Business in Saskatoon. He does CFL simulations, and the latest simulation, Calgary projected to finish first at 15-3. Saskatchewan to finish at 13-5. Computer, always prisoner of the moment, has the Stampeders an overwhelming 67.4 probability of winning the Grey Cup. Saskatchewan's at 9.2, up very slightly from last week, just up slightly after dominating BC in Vancouver. Saskatchewan, of course, projected to finish second in the West. Computer went 3-1 this past week. Whiffed on the Saskatchewan-BC game, so did I. In fact, I went 1-3. The only one I got right was the Montreal-Toronto game. Got the Rider-Lion game wrong. Got the Bombers-Stamps game wrong. A lot of people did. Well, maybe not as many as in the past, because Calgary's a really good team. And got the Ottawa-Hamilton game wrong. It was close. I thought Ottawa would win, but Hamilton comes up with the victory there. Riders, also in some further stats from the Dean, Keith Willoughby, have and his computer, 95.1% probability of hosting a playoff game. Now, this week, Calgary over Montreal, 93% probability for Calgary. I agree, it's in Calgary. They're tracking for a crowd of over 20,000. They've been averaging 19,000, and no Davis Alexander, and probably no maybe Mack for the game. There's a couple of injuries on the Montreal side, and VA's playing at an MOP type status. So I go there with Calgary as well. 92.5% probability that Saskatchewan beats Edmonton. Edmonton's splitting the reps between Cody Fajardo and Trey Ford as we talk right now. We'll have the voice of the Edmonton Elkamos on the show, Morley Scott, later in the week. I still think Trey Ford gets the start, but probably a short leash. Be interesting to see Cody against Trevor Harris in Saskatchewan. That could be a nice one. Nice. I'm all about storylines. Now, the computer's going Toronto over Winnipeg, 72.4% probability. Winnipeg's got blasted the last 2 weeks by Calgary, so that's probably why. Toronto only has one win in the season, but Zach Collaros is going to play. Looked like a nasty, maybe concussion, as his head bounced off the turf, but he's practicing and he's good to go against Toronto. So I'm going to go against the computer there. I'm going Winnipeg in this game. And Hamilton on the road against BC, 54% probability for a Hamilton victory. That's a coin flip game for me, but I am going to go with Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Despite what some people are saying, I'm not jumping off the Nathan Rourke train. I think he's working his way back to 2022 levels. Yes, he wasn't spectacular in that game. He missed some throws. Still threw for over 300 yards. Some of it, a lot of it in come from behind fashion, so he did have to throw a lot, and the Riders were laying off a bit. I get it. But I think 3 of his 4 starts have been over 300 yards. He's coming back. Problem is that defense looks suspect for sure. I do have Hamilton winning that game as well. Okay, so I wanted to get to this. Over my shoulder is Philip Rivers' jersey, and he officially announced his retirement as a Charger. He never said LA Charger. He said Charger. He's the guy that used to drive 2.5 hours there and back from LA to San Diego. Hired a driver with like a big, oversized town car, almost a limo, where he could sit and watch film and hydrate and everything like that on his way to and from the stadium. So, Philip Rivers going out as a Charger, ended his career as an Indianapolis Colt. Now, the big question is, should he be Hall of Famer? I've had this argument with guys, former athletes like Mike McCullough, Scott Schultz, some of these guys. They don't think he should be because he didn't win a championship. Do you say the same thing about Kevin Glenn? He never won a championship in the CFL. I still think he's a Hall of Famer. I think quarterbacks get too much of the credit and too much of the blame sometimes. Hardest position to play in professional sports, and a lot of times, especially when you're on a mostly dysfunctional organization like the Chargers, you can't help the fact you don't have a run game sometimes, although he did with LaDainian Tomlinson. You have bad coaching, which he did with Norv Turner. You have field goal kickers like Nate Kading that miss field goals. You have a guy who intercepts the ball and then fumbles it trying to run it back instead of going down, Marlon McCree. When if he does that, they probably go on to the Super Bowl and who knows, win it. And then all of a sudden the legend changes for Philip Rivers. But here's some of the things for Philip. Comeback Player of the Year in 2013, 4-time Offensive Player of the Month, 10-time Offensive Player of the Week, Chargers 50th Anniversary Team, MVP finalist in 2005, passing yards leader in 2010, passing touchdowns leader in 2008, passer rating leader 2008, completion percentage leader 2013, 63,440 passing yards, 6th all time. 277 completions, 7th all time. 421 passing touchdowns, 6th all time. 260 yards passing a game, 13th all time. 7.8 yards passing per attempt, 11th all time. 64.9% completion percentage, 18th all time. 11th all time in fourth quarter comebacks with 29. NFL record for most consecutive completions. NFL record for most consecutive games with 120 passer rating. Chargers record for games played. Chargers records for wins. Chargers record for completions. Chargers record for passing yards. Chargers record for passing TDs. Now, he played in an era where the defense was starting to be hamstrung with the rules being called against it. Not like it is today, but certainly towards the back half of his career, they were massaging the rules to help the offense out. But he leads Dan Fouts in all those categories for the Chargers. Dan Fouts, Hall of Famer, no Super Bowls. So if Fouts is in, how can't Rivers be in? And this is interesting too. Just 7 times has an NFL quarterback thrown for 4,000 plus yards in a season without an 800-yard receiver. And Phillip Rivers did that 3 times, 3 of the 7 times. However you slice it, one of the remarkable careers in the NFL, and in some cases, very underrated career. Drafted in the same class as Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger. Both of those guys were Super Bowl champs. Roethlisberger, was it twice? Roethlisberger twice. Eli twice. Phillip, no times. But I would say, if I had to, and yes, I'm biased, but if I had to, I'd take Phillip Rivers as the quarterback. Ben had great defenses. Eli had a great team around him, but Eli rose to the occasion in big games. Ben did in his second Super Bowl run. Phillip did at times, but just couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs, and that might be his undoing. But once again, Fouts couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs, had some of his worst games in the playoffs, and he's a Hall of Famer. That will do it for my time today, but I will be back again this week a couple of more times. And of course, we got the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show following the Riders and the Edmonton Elkamos on Friday. And that will come to you from Gerhardt Studios with myself and my buddy Leander. Thanks to all the sponsors for getting on board. This is Ballsy Uncut.